Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, is Marcus Mariota a better NFL draft pick than Jameis Winston? Plus, why is LeBron James the real NBA MVP? That, according to J.R. Smith. And after his Masters win, it's too much expected of Jordan Spieth. The First Take podcast starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. I'm Carrie Champion with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Good morning, gentlemen.
Last second cramming over there. He's in trouble.
Yeah, really?
Is that what's happening on your computer?
He's allowed. He's allowed to dream. You know how Skip is.
Hey, welcome
What's
back
going
for
on,
a
man?
second day in a row.
And I'll be
we
back
are so
tomorrow.
privileged and honored
We're
to have
getting-
you
I'll be back
in our
tomorrow.
presence.
We're getting comfortable. We're getting
Is
comfortable.
that
with
right?
it. Yeah.
Don't ever get too comfortable with me.
Oh.
I don't like that.
Yeah?
I like discomfort.
Oh, okay. I like it. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable is what he's saying. All right. On the show today, who is the real MVP? J.R. Smith handing out more wisdom. 2 days in a row, we're talking about J.R. Smith, who he believes deserves the individual award. That's coming up on the show. Plus, the Jets have too many questions under center. Who shall it be? Geno Smith or someone else? That debate ahead. But first, our Ron Jaworski says Tampa Bay should take Marcus Mariota with the first pick in the draft. Yes, that's what he said, Skip. Jaw says what he's hearing from sources, Tampa Bay has some concerns about Winston's character and is seriously considering Marcus Mariota.
I think Winston and Mariota both will be outstanding professional quarterbacks. But I've moved Mariota just ahead of Jameis Winston. I like the way he handles the football. I call it ball security. And when you look at Jameis Winston last year, far too many interceptions, 25 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, should have been 13 more interceptions that were dropped by defenders. Then you look at Marcus Mariota, 105 touchdown pass, 14 picks. There's a difference there. I love quarterbacks that take care of the football because in the NFL, ball security is paramount.
Again, that's just his informed opinion, and according to NFL.com, Marcus Mariota has already met with the Jets, Titans, Buccaneers, Bears, Chargers today, Redskins allegedly, but I guess they canceled. The Rams also have a visit scheduled for next week.
Right.
Everyone's interested.
I think the Spurs are bringing him in.
The Spurs are bringing him in,
take a
too.
look, just to take a look.
Breaking news. All right, so Skip Bayless, he's getting a lot of consideration. Do you believe he deserves this all?
Stephen A. You know what my reaction was when I saw Jaws on SportsCenter make that pick? What?
Is that what you said?
Yeah. What? I love Ron Jaworski. Covered him when he was a Los Angeles Ram. That's back in the day. Way back in the LA day. Yeah. I'm on record. Jameis Winston is the slam dunk #1 overall pick. Tampa should walk it right up to the podium right now today and just say, we're done here, Mr. Commissioner. We take him #1 overall, Jameis Winston. Taking Marcus Mariota #1 overall would be a big mistake. Taking Marcus Mariota #2 overall, as Mel Kiper is now predicting will happen by trade, somebody's going to wind up with Marcus Mariota via the #2 overall pick, would be a big mistake. Now, am I surprised by the groundswell of new love for Marcus Mariota? No, I am not. Teams are falling in love with him for the wrong reason. This is just my take on this from a distance.
I'm listening.
But I'm saying they're falling in love with this young man because he is such a great young man. No sarcasm intended here. He is a great young man. So teams are falling in love with how coachable he will be, with how much of a pleasure he is to be around, to work with. I don't disagree with any of that, but they are ignoring his shaky NFL potential. I'm going to say it again. Marcus Mariota in college was not consistently accurate out of the pocket. Not that he threw from the pocket all that much, but when he did, it was not consistently accurate, and I didn't think he made consistently sound choices when he chose his receivers from the pocket. #2, I've told you this, and I'm going to say it again. To a degree, and maybe a large degree, Marcus Mariota is a product of that fast break, quack attack offense that they ran at Oregon. The one that kept defenses on their heels and off balance because he ran that attack so beautifully. I give him credit for that. But will you tell me which NFL team is going to run the quack attack? Because I don't think any will. Even Chip Kelly will not run the quack attack if he gets his hands on Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, as we know, because we were there, so the game did count. We were actually at the national championship game. Stephen A. Smith actually watched it live, up close and personal.
On the field.
Marcus Mariota came up small. I know that's harsh, but I thought he came up small in a championship setting. I don't believe he has that supreme self-confidence you need to be the #1 overall pick, face of a franchise that is now struggling, that you need to lift back into prominence, such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
I think Marcus Mariota can be nice and deferential to a fault because he is such a great young man. Is that the dynamic leader that you want with the #1 overall pick? Me? No way. Now, has my track record in this area been pretty good on this show? It's been very good on this show. When I say that I wouldn't take a quarterback in the first round, Geno Smith, even though he dropped just slightly into the second round, did I tell you from the start? I said, nope, I'm not sold on Geno. I told you Jake Locker, no. I told you Christian Ponder, no, not sold on him. I told you Blaine Gabbert, no, not sold on him. This is before your time on the show. But Alex Smith, I said, will never live up to the #1 overall pick, and I'm still not sure he ever did. And I said, I was way on the record about Jamarcus Russell. I said, no way. This would be a really bad idea for Al Davis and company in Oakland to take him with the #1 overall pick. I told you Ryan Tannehill, and the jury's still out there. I'm just not sold on him. Now, back to this. I told you before, I don't take a quarterback in the first round unless I'm completely sold on his star quality. I'm not sold on his star quality. I'm sorry.
First of all, let me preface my comment by saying this. I got this tissue for you because you might get teary-eyed of what I'm about to say. Bottom line is this, Skip Bayless. I can't stand when you bring up stuff like you point out, well, you called this, you called this, you called that, because I think that you're reminding people of something that they don't need to be reminded of. In all seriousness, I often brag. Maybe I should use these for myself because I'm embarrassed to admit it. I often find myself bragging about this man more times than I would care to.
That is touching.
You understand?
I may need that.
Because what I'm saying to you is that I might disagree with you and I might disagree with your perspective and all of that other stuff, but I will put, based on what you say every day, watching you work for 20 years, I'm trying to tell you something right now. You watch everything. You know what the hell you're talking about.
Thank you.
So
I
might disagree with you, but it's only from your perspective. Because facts, I'll put Skip Bayless up against anybody. It's just that simple. Now, having said all of that, let me say this again. Having said all that,
now I'm going to really need
because it's the truth, and I'm going to give you your props, okay? But the flip side to it is that here's the thing. You also have to understand, when we talk about Mariota, without sitting there and exacerbating the show or any situations here, is it fair to bring up Tim Tebow in regards to
absolutely?
That's how people are falling in love with Marcus Mariota, because you're hearing a lot about his character. We're going to talk about Jordan Spieth a little later on in the show. Character. We know the game is there, but they're talking about stuff like that. And I'm saying,
but nobody really fell in love with Tebow except for Josh McDaniels, right?
But I'm talking about
this is #2 overall.
I'm talking about
#1.
The insatiable. Well, you and I disagree in the respect that I think there was an insatiable appetite for Tim Tebow to succeed because there were so many people out there that wanted him to do so for different reasons other than football. When I look at Marcus Mariota, here's what changes everything. In the sport of football, I don't blame people for feeling that way because of all the things that we've seen, all the things that the NFL, the Shield, has been subjected to. Character matters. It really, really does. It matters because you need guys not just to play well, but to be leaders of men when you're talking about them being a quarterback. My problem with Marcus Mariota, even bringing all of that into the equation, leading me to side with you, is because despite that character trait, which is a huge plus for him, I also think it serves as a negative because I don't look at Marcus Mariota as being a leader of men. I look at him as being a guy that has the potential to be one hell of a player. And once he elevates to that stature, they'll have no choice but to listen to him because he'll be the quarterback for your team.
Is that who you want to be your quarterback?
But that's not who I want to be my quarterback because I'm not sure he's going to be the player that I need him to be in order for people to listen to him and follow him into that foxhole. That's where my question lies about him. I don't have that question about Jameis Winston. I have no questions about Jameis Winston, the player. Now, the character stuff, obviously being accused of what he was being accused of, all right, did not help. There's no question about that, because you still have people out there, a lot of women out there who look at that and they say, excuse me, I don't like the fact that you got accused of that. I'm just letting you know. And then you got other stuff off the field that people look at. But to me, those last two issues basically pertain to immaturity as opposed to something far more serious like the whole sexual assault thing, the sexual assault charge. In the end, that's behind you. And now I get to look at you as a football player. And I am telling you, when you look at Jameis Winston, you look at his ability to win football games. Half of it is because of his ability to rally the troops around him, to get them to step up their game. And we didn't see that in the national semifinal against Marcus Mariota in Oregon, but we saw it everywhere else. So when I look at Jameis Winston, there is nothing to talk about to me. This dude should be the #1 overall pick. If it's Marcus Mariota, somebody will have made a huge mistake, and I don't believe it's going to be Lovie Smith. I believe that if Jameis Winston is passed over as the #1 overall pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it will be because the owners got involved, usurped the authority of Lovie Smith and the general manager, and as a result, they passed on Jameis Winston. And they will rue the day that they did that. Because Jameis Winston, to me, when I think about the ingredients that I'm looking for in a quarterback to succeed on the next level, I believe in this kid. I liked Vince Young a lot. Not as much as you did, but I liked him a lot. But where I nosedived on him was when the pressure mounted and he couldn't take it mentally. We've seen enough from Jameis Winston to know that's not a concern we need to have. Okay. This dude,
real quick on Vince,
show up.
Remember, he got drafted by a GM who wanted him and a head coach who did not want to draft him.
That's
so
an
that's
impossible
tricky.
circumstance.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to y'all is this. If Jameis Winston got drafted by a GM who wanted him, but a coach who didn't, you think that's going to affect Jameis Winston in the same way? Not that kid. Not that kid. He's going to go like this. I'm going to prove you made a mistake by not wanting me, coach. Watch me do this. Literally.
Well, I would hope Lovie would be on his side here. I would hope. You know, he'd be in his corner.
I'm told he is.
Okay, I am too. And yet, do I acknowledge all the red flags of misbehavior on Jameis's part through his college career? Sure, I do.
You have to.
Do I think he can grow out of that and rise above all that? I do. I would bet on him. I'd bet the first pick in the draft on him.
All right.
So would I. Marcus, given.
Mariota, again, visiting the Chargers today, the Rams next week. And again, there's just talk from our jaws that he should be the #1 pick in the draft. We shall see. Moving on to the NBA. Shortly after the Cleveland Cavaliers had a win, 109-97 over the Detroit Pistons, J.R. Smith was asked about LeBron James' second triple-double of the season and his 39th of his career. Here was Smith's response. There's a lot of speculation about who should get the award, but we all know who the real MVP is. In actuality, if you really wanted to, you could give it to him every year. I mean, the numbers, what he does for teams. You see, 1 year removed from the team like Miami, and they probably won't even make the playoffs, to a team that hasn't made the playoffs since he left, and then all of a sudden we're a 52-win team. So I don't think you can do that with anybody else that's in our league right now. J.R. Smith, a little bit of a campaign too. Is he right, Stephen A? What do you think of him?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. First of all, LeBron James is the best player in the world. There is no question about that. Nobody in the world is a better basketball player than LeBron James right now. When you consider the impact that he had on the franchise, where it was and where it is now that he has returned, how they're winning basketball games, the moves that were made, there is no question that LeBron James warrants consideration. But LeBron James is not getting the league MVP award this year. And I don't give a damn what his crew has to say about it. He's not getting it, okay? Wow. And the reason he's not getting it is because, number one,
are you talking to someone?
I'm talking. They know who I'm. They as in plural. Because they know who I'm talking to.
Who's they?
I'm not going to do that.
Because
they know who they are.
They know that
I said I'm looking dead into the camera to LeBron James. The people who texted me yesterday, the people who are texting me this morning, love y'all. Damn it, he ain't getting it. Okay? And here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. Number one, you don't just take 2 weeks off during the season. You don't do that. You don't take off the way they took off the other night. You don't sit there and take these sabbaticals in the middle of the season. I understand you won 50-plus games. You're the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. There was friction going on between him, the coach, or other players. We were wondering whether they were going to do it. Listen, let me tell you something right now. LeBron James, regardless of what numbers do you see, is this team in this position if Amon Shumpert,
No.
J.R. Smith,
Yeah.
and Timothy Mozgov are not on this team? No, they are not. Now, if you want to give LeBron James Executive of the Year and ignore David Griffin, come talk to me. But in terms of going on the court, night in, night out, LeBron James took sabbaticals. You know why he took those sabbaticals? Because LeBron James went back to Cleveland for the chip. He didn't come back for league MVP awards. He's got 4 of them. He said that's not that important. And damn it, he showed it. Because when he wanted to take off, that's what he did. Fine. Let's not talk about him as the MVP. We know he's the best player in the world. You understand? But LeBron has elevated to a point where I told you it's a compliment to him, not an insult. He has elevated himself to a point where it is all about the chip. It is all about rings. All of this other stuff don't matter. LeBron has achieved it. That's why you got 4 league MVP awards. Does he deserve consideration? Of course, because you're the best in the world, you deserve consideration. But has he done what Steph Curry did with Golden State this year? No. Has he done what James Harden has done with the Houston Rockets? Yep. I would still say no. Do you know why I say no? Because the Cleveland Cavaliers ain't in the West. They're in the East. And even though LeBron is still going to be LeBron, what would the Cleveland Cavaliers be if they had to go up against the Western Conference night in, night out, as opposed to being in a relatively weak, a considerably weaker Eastern Conference compared to the Western Conference? I'm not saying that LeBron James wouldn't still be LeBron James, but would the Cleveland Cavaliers still be the Cleveland Cavaliers? I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Timothy Mozgov, J.R. Smith, Amon Shumpert, Kevin Love with questionable wheels, even though I love me some Kyrie Irving. He's a bad boy. He can go up against anybody. And I know they had success against the Western Conference this year. Yep. But having success against the West is entirely different than competing in the West, because that's where you live. You ain't visitors. You live there. It would be different for me, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm going to give more consideration this particular season for the individual MVP award to Steph Curry and James Harden. That is the way that it is. Don't talk to me about it anymore. He's not getting the MVP this year, and that's that. Win the chip. That's what this year is about. It ain't about a 5th league MVP title. He ain't a league MVP title that he ain't getting. Period.
Would you be speaking to a Maverick or a Rich or a Randy?
He said he's not going to.
I'm not going to say who I'm talking to.
I was just speculating.
They ain't the only one of his boys that have texted me. I can promise you that.
Okay.
There's other people like who texted me yesterday. He knows who he is.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
David Blatt?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, it ain't David Blatt. David Blatt, very nice guy, though. Yeah. Very nice guy. Got a bad rap, to believe it or not.
Well, you like David Griffin, right?
I think he's done a good job. I think David Griffin has done a good job considering the circumstances.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Back to the question. I do agree with your thesis statement on what you just said. LeBron James is still the best player in the world. I agree. I concur. I give it up. Nobody could have done what LeBron has done in taking a woeful Cleveland franchise since his departure and walk right back in the door and put it right back on the national map. I'm with you. I don't think Kevin Love would have gone to Cleveland without LeBron James' presence there, obviously. But there's only one surprise to me in the Eastern Conference at this moment, and that is that Cleveland isn't the best team, record-wise, in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta is still 8 games better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is that a shock to you? It's a shock to me. As the smoke clears, I didn't see that coming because I thought Cleveland would run away with the Eastern Conference.
If they took it seriously night in and night out,
thank you.
They would have.
Okay, thank you. So, from our Brian Windhorst, did LeBron not have early conflict with Kyrie Irving? Maybe it was good conflict. Maybe it was productive. Maybe it was beneficial. But remember the bad body language? LeBron wouldn't get back on defense. LeBron would walk up the court. LeBron would isolate himself and just kind of stand over on the side with his arms folded and say, you do it. You go ahead and dribble and you shoot to Kyrie. Remember the early games? Remember when we were at Michigan State? We did a whole topic about it that day, November? Okay, so we went through that phase. And that team at that point fell to 19-20 before LeBron took his break. Then he came back rejuvenated, Some air got cleared. He did have a little conflict with Kevin Love, but it was, I think, premeditated to motivate Kevin Love. Then he had a little conflict with the head coach. And there was that weekend when we said, is David Black going to last through the weekend? Brian Windhorst was all over the story. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so lots of conflicts, but maybe premeditated to lift everybody into position to win, as you say, the chip. But still, lots of struggles through the year. LeBron's PER, player efficiency rating, lowest it's been in 8 years. So you can't do it with numbers at all. You can't make the case that JR is making. You can do it in magnitude, in overall impact. I get that. But I just don't think LeBron has played as well as Steph has played, or played as well as James Harden. And you're going to say, I'm picking nits again, but I'm going to bring up this game because it still sticks in my mind and my craw. We were on vacation on the day, it was March the 1st, a Sunday. First Sunday we had off.
At Houston.
Yeah, at Houston. So this is MVP candidate versus MVP candidate against the guy who, well, might win it, James Harden. Remember what happened in overtime down the stretch? LeBron finally did what I've been begging him to do for years on this show. He took the ball to the basket. Down one with 4 seconds left. He got fouled. He goes to the free throw, and he missed both of them. He missed 2 free throws, 1 to tie and 2 to win.
Yes.
And I immediately tweeted, forgive me for tweeting.
On vacation?
I'm sorry, I tweeted on vacation. Ernestine doesn't know this. I'm admitting this.
Wow.
You snuck in a tweet?
Yeah, I snuck in a tweet.
You went to your closet and you just started tweeting?
I swore it off.
Okay.
I swore it off.
And so you're
But I
lied
tweeted.
to Ernestine and tweeted behind her back.
I just
tweeted behind.
let's say I avoided the truth. I didn't lie. I just kind of
You omitted.
I omitted the truth.
Yes.
Wow.
It was just a quick.
It's going to be a long night for
It was
you.
a quick tweet. She's not watching. She's busy this
Okay.
morning.
So she'll know about this segment. But go ahead.
He just
Thanks.
he just sent the text. He tweeted behind your back.
I immediately tweeted when he missed both free throws. MVPs make those free throws. They just do. I'm sorry, LeBron hasn't had an MVP season, but I get what JR is saying.
But
I do
didn't
get
LeBron go to Twitter or Instagram the next day and talk about those 2 missed free throws? And he was saying, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. Was that the time he gave?
Look,
I was on vacation.
Yeah.
You were following.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
follow
He did
LeBron.
do that, but I will say this. What you're nitpicking about, I don't fault LeBron. You got to make those free throws. I get that. But I keep trying to, this is the one thing I keep trying to teach you about basketball, Skip Bayless. If you normally do something and then you don't do it, that's choking.
So you're saying it's not his strength?
But when it's never been his strength. I've seen him make clutch free throws. I've seen him miss them.
Yep.
But he's not a money 90% free throw. That's not who he is.
Yep.
You can send LeBron to the line, and it's a 50-50 proposition whether he's going to make both.
That's a strong statement.
I'm just saying, listen, you can send him to the line, and it's a 50-50 proposition.
Okay, so the best player in the world is a 50-50 proposition at the free throw line.
At the free throw line.
Well,
Because I was taught a long time ago, particularly when you're physical. You know, you're banging, you're playing high energy, and then you got to go to the free throw line, compose yourself, calm yourself down, shoot free throws. Sometimes it's easier to make a contested shot than it is to shoot a freebie for some people. That's just the way that it goes. It wasn't that difficult for Kobe. It's not that difficult for MJ. You know what happened with MJ? When he dropped the 63, remember at Boston Garden? Remember he made those 2 free throws to send it into overtime.
I do.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
This is what happens. But what I'm saying to you is I've seen LeBron make those free throws in Boston. It's happened before. But he'll turn around the next night and miss them. That's who he is.
He's closer to Shaq.
Not closer to Shaq.
I just wanted to see how which way you're going.
No, I'm saying he's not close to the Shaq, but he's in the middle. He's a good free throw shooter, but he's not money. You understand? Not from the free throw line. Just like he's improved his perimeter shot, but he's not money. That's not his strength.
For like 9 years, I said this on the show, said he's not money from the free throw line, and everybody said, how dare you say that? Now you're saying
that. I didn't say
not
that.
you, but
He's saying
I'm saying even when you used to say it, I used to tell you. But that's free throws. Like, for example, I got a problem with DeAndre Jordan missing so many free throws the way I used to have a problem with Shaq missing so many free throws. The issue, however, is that's always been an issue. But when I look at Rajon Rondo shooting 41% from the free throw line, where the hell did that come from? You didn't do that before. What's that about? because that's not who you customarily were. That's what you have to pay attention to. You can't judge LeBron James based on that, but he's not the MVP this year because he didn't want it bad enough. And he has to own that, and all of his supporters have to own it. He came to
whoever they are.
He came to Cleveland for the chip.
Yes.
He wasn't interested in the league MVP award because if he were interested, he would have done even more.
I have a feeling you shared that with him before.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I'm tired of repeating myself.
You are? Okay.
He's not getting the MVP award. Period. LeBron win the chip.
Okay.
I think we get it.
I don't know if we do.
He's not getting the MVP award.
I still can't believe you tweeted behind Ernestine's back.
I did.
How
But don't
dare
tell
you.
her.
Geno Smith has been under center for 2 seasons, and his 11-18 record has been underwhelming for the Jets. And now ESPN's Rich Cimini, citing sources close to the Jets, reported on Sunday that the Jets general manager hasn't ruled out trading up for a quarterback in this year's draft. While Bleacher Report NFL insider Jason Cole reported on Monday that the Jets want to move on from this guy. That's a quote. Move on from this guy. They've already had Marcus Mariota in for a visit, and Winston will be at the facility in the coming days. Although it's highly unlikely that they will be able to get Winston with their 6th pick. But, Stephen A., let's talk about the Jets. Is it time for them to move on from Geno Smith?
When you have the worst passing attack in the NFL, then obviously it lends itself towards saying that's the way you should go in another direction. But I'm going to do something that I don't think too many people have done for Geno Smith right now. I'm going to be fair to him. If we are willing to acknowledge that as brilliant of a defensive mind as Rex Ryan has proven to be, whether it's due to neglect, dereliction of duty, being preoccupied with headlines as opposed to actually coaching his team, or flat out being incompetent and ignorant when it comes to the offensive side of the football in the National Football League, whatever excuse or rationale you use, it is undeniable that Geno Smith wasn't put in the most ideal situation to be the quarterback of an NFL team, working under Rex Ryan and Marty Morningwig with the New York Jets. I know Marty Morningwig has an offensive background, coaching in Philly all of those years under Andy Reid, and he's to be respected. But nevertheless, offense simply was not a priority for the New York Jets. It was not a priority, particularly as it pertained to personnel. When Idzik, the former GM, John Idzik, goes out and gets Eric Decker as your number one. And Eric Decker, I'm not saying he's a scrub, he can't play. He's no number one receiver in the NFL. When it's him and Curley and Cumberland as your tight end, whether it's a Bilal Powell, Chris Ivory, they're not scrubs. But at the same time, there's no one that stands out offensively. And you combine that with the head coach who clearly didn't prioritize anything offensively. What is a young quarterback supposed to do? And that is the thing that I think that we need to try to do with Geno Smith. Am I sold on Geno Smith? Hell no. Geno Smith completed 59% of his passes last year, 55% of his passes as a rookie. He threw 13 interceptions, just 13 touchdowns last year. He has not endeared himself to anybody's mind's eye as it pertains to being a quarterback in the NFL. But we can't just throw him under the bus and not highlight the conditions under which he was working. And that's what I'm saying about Geno. So, am I sold on him? No. Do I think he's the answer? No. Has he done anything to endear any of us to him? Absolutely not. But I'm not sure if we can put that all on him. Who knows what he may have. Now that Brandon Marshall is your number one receiver, Decker's a legitimate number 2, Curley's your slot guy, you re-sign Bilal Powell, your offensive line with the Brickenshaw, Ferguson, and Mangold and those boys ain't bad. Who knows what he might do? I'm not saying that's the way you go. You don't bank your money on it, but it's hard to believe that Geno is as bad as everybody's saying he is when we're not taking the other things into consideration.
So if you're the Jets, would you attempt to acquire a quarterback?
Yes, I would.
In the draft?
Yes, I would.
Whichever way you want to go, up or down, whichever. You identify somebody, you say, we're going to go get this guy.
Yes, but I wouldn't sit there and summarily cut Geno Smith and say, get out of my face.
All right.
I would still think that there could potentially be some value to him.
Yeah. I think you make a very fair and very accurate point in favor of Geno and his development, because he was in maybe the worst situation a young quarterback could have been thrown into, with a Rex Ryan who never had any feel for the other side of the ball, the offensive side. I still think he's the best defensive coach in football, and I think that will manifest itself once again in Buffalo this year. Listen, you better watch Buffalo, because they're going to do some things.
Especially defensively.
This team, defensively, this Jets team, this might be the best defense in pro football. So is Todd Bowles quite Rex Ryan? Not quite, but he's close, and he might become the next Rex Ryan. Again, he's the head coach now, but you know he's going to pretty much coordinate the defense too. So I have no doubt about the Jets' defense, but I agree with you. The weapons or lack thereof around Geno, even though I look at his QBR those first 2 years, and remember, his first year, he was 29th out of 31 who qualified, and the two below him were the two Jacksonville quarterbacks, Henne and Blake Bortles. Last year, he was 32nd of 33 who qualified for QBR, and the one quarterback below him was Blake Bortles. So it's been Geno and then the Jacksonville quarterbacks bringing up the very rear. So he's been awful. I'm still not sold on him, but I wasn't sold on him before the draft. But should you give him another shot? Maybe, but do the Jets have a shot at making a playoff run, or making it to the playoffs? Could they go 10-6 this year with
that defense?
Yeah, that defense with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's, you know what, he's pretty good. I'm not saying he's going to save your world, but Ryan
better than
Fitzpatrick,
Geno.
he's just better than Geno. I agree, because listen, last year in Houston, Ryan Fitzpatrick had some pretty good games, and for a while in Buffalo, when they gave him his money, he had a couple of nice runs there. He can win some games, especially with this defense. If he doesn't do anything stupid and he hands off a lot to those guys you just brought up, all of them, the whole three of them.
Chris Ivory.
Yeah. Listen, they could do some damage. Now, again, they got to deal with the New England Patriots, but the Patriots are going to have a problem on defense. So all of a sudden, the playing field is level.
Well, it's leveled because you're going to have two. See, here's the problem with the New England Patriots since you brought them up. First of all, Miami is no slouch. Mm-hmm. And Ndamukong Suh coming there changes that culture defensively, and that helps. Mm-hmm. We already recognize with Rex Ryan and the personnel that they already had that made them one of the top defenses in the game. Now you added Rex Ryan to that mix. Buffalo's coming. And the Jets are obviously coming. So if you're New England, you put more pressure on Tom Brady. And on top of it all, you've got three defenses within the division that he's got to face 6 times. And at least 4 times, you're facing 2 teams combined, Buffalo and New York, that may very well be the top 2 defenses.
They just well might be.
Top 2 or 3 defenses in all of Seattle, can't ignore them. Yeah. But top 2 or 3 defenses
they are
in all of the NFL. Tom Brady's going to have to deal with that. And meanwhile, it's going to be even more pressure because Revis is gone, Brown is gone, Wolfrick is gone. It's going to get very interesting.
Okay, but to sum this up, if you do draft a quarterback that you deem as your future, and you do want to go with a Ryan Fitzpatrick just this year, what are you going to do with Geno?
That's what I was going to ask.
That's just tricky. It's like, what are you going to do?
What Geno has not had an opportunity to sit back and learn. Now, it would help that he has to make sure that he's at practice as opposed to a movie theater, missing sessions. He doesn't need to do that. Yeah, he went to go see a movie in San Diego. Really?
Gone Girl.
So you're Gone Girl. It was a damn good movie, but I'm just saying, you just can't do it. And you know what? Order it.
Time didn't work.
Order it. Come on, man. Come on now. Really? You're right. So the point is, you gotta make sure that you laid back, you're in the film room, you're learning more, and I think it's better for Geno at this juncture rather than to throw him to the wolves.
Quarterbacks like Geno Smith and E.J. Manuel, they always find themselves, they don't always, but they're in this position now that if they don't get to play, what happens to them? Do you see them out of the league, even if they get to sit and learn?
I think it's possible with Geno because Geno, I think in the case of E.J. Manuel, he was yanked early where somebody can look at him and say, okay, he's just learning and developing. In the case of Geno, people are using the word finished because it was so abysmal in their eyes what they saw from him. So the jury is still out about E.J. Manuel, where Whereas you have other folks within NFL circles who are of this belief that Geno is finished. I'm not doing that to Geno.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair to him because of the conditions under which he was working. Okay. But it may help him now that you have a coach who may pay more attention to the offensive side of the ball. It may help Geno to sit back and just learn.
You led from the first round to the very end of the shooting match, right?
That's right.
That doesn't happen often, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's
more pressure that way?
Well, maybe put some extra expectations on myself, right? When you're in the lead, you want to keep it. It's a dream come true to win that event,
right?
To win the Masters, and so
at one point you're 19 under par. I mean, is that even legal?
I think you need to be to 21, don't you?
Jordan Spieth on Letterman last night after his dominant win at the Masters. Spieth is now the #2 golfer in the world, and for many, an overnight hero. You may have heard about his high school sweetheart, his sister's fight with autism, etc. Joining us now to talk about him on and off the course. Him being Jordan Spieth, you being Herman Edwards, our coach. Welcome. You were obviously at the Masters, and we'll get to you in just a few seconds.
Sure.
I wanted just to welcome you first. But Stephen A., let me ask you this, and you mentioned this yesterday about the hero complex. Do you think too much is being expected of him on and off the course?
Yes, off the course. I have no problem with the expectations for him on the course because he's proven that he's worthy. Top 2 finish both years at the Masters over the last 2 years, as Skip pointed out yesterday. He's been on the scene. This is not a newcomer. He's been on the scene for about 3 years now. His poise on the course, how strategic he is, how he's mastered what he does, doesn't overpower you, just is methodical and very cerebral in his approach, and is showing a level of brilliance you rarely see from a 21-year-old. It can't be disputed. And the fact that he's won the Masters at age 21, and you got a 21 and a 25-year-old that are ranked number 2 and 1 in the world respectively in Spieth and Rory McIlroy, I think says a lot about the way the game is going right now, and everybody's looking for a new face. But I couldn't help notice how everybody's been raving about this kid, and you could take it as direct shots at Tiger or indirect shots at Tiger to some degree because he's everything Tiger's not, and all of this other stuff. I mean, they're flat out, they've done everything but flat out say it. My thing is, forget about Tiger for a moment. The kid is 21 years of age, and I brought up to Skip how I thought about Tebow, and I said, it got so ridiculous, it got to a point where if Tebow had premarital sex, it might have been front page news. From every place to the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal and beyond.
Well,
I'm just saying, but we need to pump the brakes on that. Especially when it comes to this kid. I understand the high school sweetheart. It's a beautiful story. It's a high school sweetheart. You got 2 beautiful parents that obviously have done a phenomenal job raising their children. They were both athletes. You got a brother that's 6'6" and plays at Brown University. You got a sister with a neurological disorder, leaning her towards autism. She's their younger sister. They love her dearly. We understand that. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And you're talking about the high school girlfriend. Well, does that mean you're going to report if they break up? Does that mean that that's going to make news too? Are we going to start? What are we going to start talking about? And I'm saying, yeah, the answer is yes, obviously, because it's a rhetorical question. Because the way they're going right now, they even pointed out in articles how he didn't cuss. Whereas Tiger did cuss. Well, I had somebody call me up on my radio show yesterday, Skip. Yes, Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. Every day, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Channel 85. Yeah. The point is that they actually brought up how Spieth did cuss at one point. I don't know whether this is true or not, but they were saying that he dropped an F-bomb, but it didn't air because it was like a 3-minute delay or something like that. I don't know whether...
Not at this Masters.
I don't know. But what I'm saying to you is this. I don't want to cast any aspersions on him because even if he did, so what?
Yeah.
My point is we're looking for stuff right now to elevate this kid on a personal level. And what we're not taking into account is the expectations you may heap on this young man because you're trying to define how he should live. Let's be happy that he's not in trouble with the law. You understand? He ain't breaking any laws. He's living his life. He's established himself as elite at his profession, and leave it at that. Because when we venture into the personal, okay, you never know what you may find or what he may even discover that hasn't even existed yet because he's 21. Yeah. Let's protect the kid by stepping back, limiting our dialogue about him to the sport, and try minding our damn business. But I don't see that. What I see is this concerted effort being made to elevate him as a person and highlight and illuminate him in a fashion where we're not realizing the second he does something different, Coach, it's going to give vultures out there a license to come at him, and this kid doesn't deserve that.
Are you detecting that it's all in contrast to what Tiger was at his peak? It's like, is that what?
I think that's the case. I'm not talking about Tiger. I think what they're trying to say is that this kid is everything we want all of you all to be.
Right.
And Tiger is not, and y'all been celebrating him. This is the kid that you need to celebrate. And I'm saying, but he's a kid.
Okay.
If he was 39 years old, yeah, he's 21. Let him live, because it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous, because I'm trying to tell you, from the time you're 21, even to 25, you don't know what you might find yourself in.
You don't.
And 30, and beyond.
You were at the Masters.
Yes.
You attend every year?
Yeah. The last 4 years, yeah.
Okay. Did you sense what Stephen A is speaking of?
Well, Stephen A makes some great points, as far as off the golf.
That's the only point I was making.
And he hit it. He hit it, because there's a lot of pressure on young guys. I mean, even in basketball, some of these young players that come into the NBA, we look at them, and then all of a sudden they make a wrong turn, and then we want to jump them. And this guy is being set up to be something that maybe he is, but if he slips, we're going to talk about that. We're almost waiting for him to slip. He has great humility when you're around this young man. Mm-hmm. Now, don't lose sight of this. He has the mentality of this when he plays golf. He respects all, but he fears none. I mean, that's his MO when you watch him play now. And Stephen A said it. He is a very efficient golfer. He's very efficient. He doesn't make a lot of errors. And when he makes an error, he can put it past him and he gets into the next shot. I mean, this is how this guy plays. He's not going to overwhelm you. He hit the great shot on 18 there on Saturday that really kind of saved his round, because he makes a bogey there, all of a sudden he goes double bogey, and it's a whole new ball game. But he's very inefficient guy, but he's a competitor, though. I mean, you can see this guy grinding now. He competes. He doesn't say a lot. He understands the history of golf. The guy wanted to win the Masters. That was one of his goals. I mean, obviously, and we're going to propel this guy. Obviously, we're trying to compare him with Tiger, and we have to be careful, because Tiger's a different personality than Jordan Spieth, and that's okay. We need personalities in golf. This guy is a heck of a player. We're trying to almost replace Tiger and say this is the next guy.
Yeah.
Just let him be speak. We said that about Roy McIlroy. And all of a sudden, Roy played well. But think about this. Phil Mickelson was what? 14 under? I mean, the other time he would have won the Masters.
Easy, yeah.
This guy had a great day. He's a great player. Let him be, like you said, let him be 21. Let's don't ask him to be somebody that we wanted him to be, but he's going to make some mistakes down the road. That's his growing up.
Okay, a couple of fairly deep thoughts here. First of all, remember, Jordan Spieth has been in the golf spotlight for 5 long years, from age 16 to 21. He has not been in the national spotlight. He hasn't been on your radar, or maybe your radar, until now. Now he's been thrust into face of golf adulation, right? That's where we are now, off this one win.
Okay.
But just quickly, if you look back at his history, when he was 16 years of age, he got a sponsor's exemption to play the Byron Nelson, which is the Dallas Tour stop of the PGA Tour. And he tied for 17th. He made the cut and tied for 17th. Well, that was a huge story in Dallas, Texas. He got lots of publicity. He did a whole lot of interviews. Every round that week, he got interviewed and interviewed and interviewed. So this is not, he's 16. He's a high school kid. Then he won 2 U.S. junior amateurs. The only other person to win 2, Tiger Woods. So he was in the golf spotlight. And then he goes to University of Texas for 1 year. Tiger went to Stanford, obviously. He led Texas to the national championship in his 1 year at Texas. Pretty big golf spotlight, but not a national spotlight. And then you know what he did? at age 20 in his first Masters. He's in the final pairing on Sunday, and he finishes tied for second. And then, he just won the Masters at age 21. So this is nothing new. He's used to this. He's ready for this kind of David Letterman, Mike and Mike kind of spotlight that he suddenly got thrust into. Rory McIlroy, remember, as much as we all tried to embrace Rory, as fun as he is to watch, he's a lot more fun to watch than this kid is. This kid is too efficient for the eye. He's making it look too easy. So there's nothing captivating about Jordan Spieth's game. He makes 20-foot putts like they're 2-foot putts, right? Yes. But that doesn't translate to your eye watching the Masters. But Rory is from Ireland, no matter how he's like, and it's not an ugly American thing, it's just like he's not ours. And when we play Europe in the Ryder Cup, Rory is leading them against us. So it's hard for America to say, oh, Rory's the next fate. Well, we can't really get our arm around Rory McIlroy. But Tiger Woods, now, back to your point. I keep telling you, my circle, and this is a small sample size, but my friends from high school, my age, and my mom, they lived for Tiger Woods playing the major championships. They were so disappointed in Tiger on Sunday because they thought he was right there ready to explode on Augusta National and make it a horse race to the wire with the kid. So my point is that are there parents out there who don't like the fact that even now, even in this tournament, with the boom mics 2 feet away from Tiger Woods, he still hasn't learned or doesn't want to learn at age 39 that you can't just spew out profanities because they're going to go out on national TV with no delay. Tiger got caught this time, 4 or 5 times, saying things that I think a lot of parents did not love in their living rooms on a Saturday or even, God forbid, on a Sunday, where he's just spewing words out where you're like, ooh, because your kids are going to hear these words. You can't mute it. You can't delay it. Okay, so Jordan Spieth, has he cursed before? I don't know this, but he probably has. Is he capable? Is he going to watch his tongue from here on? I hope so, for his sake, because now he's been put on that pedestal that you're talking about. So there is some contrast to Tiger Woods. But do not underestimate how much golf still wants and needs Tiger Woods to be the face of golf.
Well, you make this point. Okay. I know this, going there Friday.
Yep.
Tiger teed off at 10:30. We got there around 8:30, just walking around and watching other guys play. And when I walked up to that first tee, it was 12 deep.
Wow.
It was 12 deep.
All I'm going to say to y'all is this.
They went for Tiger Woods.
All I'm going to say to y'all is this, and we'll probably get into where I'm going when we bring up one of our next items, but I'm not talking about Joe Public. I'm talking about the true conveyors of information, which is the media. A lot of people point to the media. A lot of people resent the media, particularly professional athletes, because they believe the stage for failure, the foundation for it, is set and manipulated by those the fourth estate. And that is a subject that we're going to touch on a little bit later, too, because it's necessary, because Jordan Spieth is involved in that, too. But he ain't the only one. I'll elaborate on it later.
Okay, but bottom line,
yes,
have you ever seen a more mature, poised, mentally tough 21-year-old? Because I don't think I have.
You know what? But let's face reality. If we want to sit there and give Jordan Spieth credit for it, how about his parents? Because let me tell you something right now. He didn't do that by himself.
No, he didn't.
And so if you're going to sit there and say, rather than rave about him, rave about how he was nurtured and cultured, how about those who weren't fortunate enough to be in that position but still found a way? LeBron James, his mom, has been there for him, but he openly talks about how his dad was not. Can you think of a person that has been a better role model as a superstar than LeBron James? Think about that. But people criticize him at every turn. How is that fair?
So when Russell Westbrook scored a career-high 54 points on 43 shots on Sunday, there were some, see my man to my left, that were critical of how the guard took too many shots. Westbrook's response.
Most people are going to look at the box score, see that he took 43 shots. Do you think he took too many tonight, or?
I'm not sure, man. I don't really give a damn what nobody thinks, tell you the truth, man. I really don't care. Every night I go out and compete harder than anybody else in this league, and I'm proud of coming out. My teammates don't have a problem with it. I'm good with that.
All right, so then there's Kobe Bryant. He strapped on his cape to defend Westbrook on Monday with this post on Twitter. 54 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 49% from the field, but all the media cares about is the 43 field goal attempts. Kobe went on a Twitter rant, so to speak. He talked about greats such as himself, Iverson, and Jordan, who took 40-plus attempts but still won the game and or the chip. Stephen A., what do you make of it?
Well, first of all, I completely agree with Russell Westbrook in terms of him saying, I really don't give a damn what anybody thinks. I don't blame him for having that kind of attitude, because when you're trying to compete and you're trying to get your team to the postseason and you're on that court and in the offseason putting in the necessary work and you're on your grind, you can't be concerned about that. Not if you're going to win, because if the court of public opinion ultimately can influence your approach to the game, you'll never be a champion. That's number one. Number two, I totally agree with his quote. I disagree with Mike Golick from Mike and Mike this morning when he was lamenting the fact that Russell Westbrook says he competes harder than anybody. He didn't like that comment. I had no problem with it. The reason I had no problem with it is that Russell Westbrook did not say I work harder than anybody else. The operative word was compete. And when you watch this guy on the basketball court, I challenge anyone in the world to show me someone who competes harder, play in, play out, game in, game out, night in, night out, than Russell Westbrook. The dude is an assassin. He comes at you all the time, and he is relentless. He's so relentless, it's scary. Russell Westbrook is one of those guys. You have the great guys like LeBron James and others who you sit back and you're like, okay, I got to go up against them. I got to be ready because their skills are so surreal. Russell Westbrook is one of the rare breeds in NBA history as an opponent that you sit in the locker room and you're like, damn, I got to get ready to go against this guy because this guy is going to try to take me out. Russell Westbrook is the equivalent of Mike Tyson or George Foreman in their prime as fighters, when people stepped into the ring literally worried for their life because these guys would come at you that way. If Russell Westbrook was a boxer, that's how you would fear him, because he comes at you. He ain't trying to go the distance. He ain't trying to outbox you. He ain't trying to be a decision. He's trying to get in and take you out and snatch your heart and demoralize you as quick as he possibly can. I applaud it. I understand there are imperfections with that, Skip, and I get that sometimes that doesn't work. But when I talk about building a franchise, and I want somebody on my squad that is the kind of guy whose effort and competitive fervor I can rely upon, that's who I want. I want a guy like that. And as it pertains to Kobe and his tweet, I applaud Kobe, because Kobe's mentality, Kobe is still ticked off of that poll that we lamented that ESPN came out with that had nothing to do with people like me or you, where they talk about there's 40 players in the world better than him, and then you have people lamenting that he was the person responsible for the regression or the disintegration of the Lakers franchise as we speak. That stuff still rakes him to the core, because he's looking not at just his skill set, but the commitment to excellence that he strives and pursues on a day-in, day-out basis for his career. And he's saying, wait a minute, listen to y'all in the media talk about cats all the time who don't bring it. And here we are bringing it, and you complaining about that too? Damn! Can anybody win? That's the mentality, and that's where that tweet came from, in my opinion. And I like stuff like that because it enlightens us.
Okay. Quick point on Mike Tyson. He played an individual sport, right?
Yes.
No teammates to worry about. Yes. George Foreman, no teammates to worry about. Yes. I get your analogy because it works. Right. It works until you talk about the teammates. I've said it many times on the show. Russell Westbrook is an unholy terror on the basketball court. I've never seen anything like it. Nobody competes harder. In fact, I'll go this far. He competes the hardest in the league on a dribble-by-dribble basis. I've never seen anybody attack on both ends the way he attacks. Now, on the defensive end, he can be a little lax because he's trying to steal the ball. He's roaming. But again, maybe it's not textbook defense, but he's playing hard.
Yes.
Now,
he's trying to make things happen.
Here's my problem with Kobe defending him. And just for the record, so people get this, in 6 of Kobe's last 8 full seasons that he's played, he has led this league in shot attempts. So we get that. Russell Westbrook is not Kobe Bryant. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I know I'm talking to 2 Kobe lovers here, but you got them both. You like Russell too. He's just not. And I don't think he'll ever be. He can't have Kobe's impact on a basketball game. And the only reason I had an issue with 43 attempts was they lost the game by, 8 points? So it's close going to the fourth quarter. And then you end up, even though we made 7 of 13 in the last quarter, look, you have to, your tunnel vision is so extreme. It's just see rim. It's just attack rim, attack rim. You have to get the others involved because the defense is begging you to dump it to Cantor on this play, to get Marr over there in the corner for the wide open, begging for the basketball 3. Those are the ways you beat a hot Indiana at Indiana and keep yourself in the playoff race, even though they bounced back last night because Russell took only 27 shots at home in a back-to-back, and they beat, albeit kind of a crippled Portland team, but they beat them, and they're right back in it because now all they need is my Spurs to win at Pelicans, and they're in the playoffs. So Russell got back on course last night. He did what he needed to do. But remember, Russell is now leading this league in shot attempts per game with 22 a game. It leads by far. And he also leads in turnovers per game with 4.4, which doesn't seem very high, but that's a high number. That's leading it pretty significantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's this guy. That's who he is. Lots of shots, lots of turnovers. He can play reckless. He can play a little out of control. He took some shots last night where I was saying, what are you doing? You know, where you just drive crazy. You're hell-bent, you know, where you don't have any perspective. And a lot of times it works, and occasionally it doesn't. And he needs to grow into what works every time, what works most of the time, right?
But my challenge to you, Skip, is to absorb the reality that you're talking about wisdom. Kobe and them are talking about effort and what you're trying to do. And I'm saying to you that, of course, there are things that Russell Westbrook will do better as he gets older and his athleticism dissipates to some degree because Father Time snatches it away. Yeah. And as a result, you have to make modifications. You have to make concessions. But the fact is he doesn't have to do that now. Those wild shots that you call wild and seemingly out of control, Russell Westbrook makes on a regular basis. When he shot the 43 attempts, he hit 48.8% of those shots. It wasn't like he shot 30%.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying,
although he made 5 out of 15 threes, that's no good.
That's fine.
That's not enough.
But he made 48.8% of those shots. Yeah. I'll take those numbers. Yeah. And then also, Skip, think about what Kobe is saying, which is where I told y'all I was going to go. The resentment and the hostility that Kobe Bryant expressed or Russell Westbrook seems to express, it's not just because of a media that appears ignorant from time to time, and we can be from time to time because they're inside, we're outside, we may not know everything. But the other side to it is that they can't win. You got to be able to present somebody a winning proposition.
Yeah.
If I sit there, I'm telling you right now, you can't find me 5 guys in the league that you would take before Russell Westbrook, knowing all the mistakes because of what he brings to the table from a competitive fervor, from his athleticism, and his level of production. Now, you can find guys that can shoot better. You can find guys that'll make less turnovers. You can find guys that play better defense. You can find guys that play better offense. You cannot find 5 guys in the league who bring an all-around game more valuable to the table than Russell Westbrook.
I hear you.
Can't do it.
But bottom line to this, now that Russell has won the All-Star Game MVP and he's about to win his first scoring title, how does this guy named Durant blend back in with that? Well, it's going to be hard,
That's a good question. But isn't that a problem most executives would love to have?
High-class problem.
I don't know if Kevin Durant wants to have that problem.
That's a high-class problem.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I think Winston and Mariota both will be outstanding professional quarterbacks. But I've moved Mariota just ahead of Jameis Winston. I like the way he handles the football. I call it ball security. And when you look at Jameis Winston last year, far too many interceptions, 25 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, should have been 13 more interceptions that were dropped by defenders. Then you look at Marcus Mariota, 105 touchdown pass, 14 picks. There's a difference there. I love quarterbacks that take care of the football because in the NFL, ball security is paramount.
Well, that was our Ron Jaworski with some very strong.
My man.
That's my man, $100 grand. So again, he says he would take Marcus Mariota.
Well, wait,
pick.
you're not Stephen A. Smith.
But that's okay. Stephen's coming.
He's better looking.
He's joining us.
I think we just went to the next level.
Oh, yeah, well, it's fine. It's fine. Stephen A. will be back in just a second, guys.
All right. He's dealing with that playoff basketball.
Yeah. Oh.
He's got some
okay.
breaking news for us when he comes back.
Inside jokes here, folks. So Herm Edwards hanging out with us. Do you think that Marcus Mariota deserves this level of consideration?
Sure he does.
Okay.
When you look at his body of work, what this guy has accomplished, he's going to be a first-round pick. Is he going to be the first player picked in the draft? No.
Sure.
I would hedge my bet that Jameis Winston is going to be the first player picked.
Are you sure?
I would hedge my bet.
Okay.
I'm hedging my bet. I got a good feeling.
All right.
I think he's going to be the first player picked. And that doesn't bother me one bit. I think he goes to a team and goes to a head coach that understands the type of player he's getting. This guy has the clutch gene, in my opinion. He's probably the most ready quarterback coming out of the draft. Strong arm, durability. And when the lights are bright, he shows up. He shows up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I had the privilege of coaching this young man in the high school game. I saw it there. And from there, he went to Florida State. Just visited with him, George Whitfield's here,
with him,
and we had a little conversation. I said, hey, young man, you remember me? He said, yeah, coach. He said, when you was my coach, you didn't lose either, did you? That's the first thing came out of his mouth.
Really?
He said, he's right.
Wow.
26-1, and a lot of pressure on this kid. When he played college football at Florida State, obviously, and won a lot of football games. And maturity-wise, I mean, he's done some things that you look at and go, wow. But this is the key. He better hope he goes to Tampa, Lovie Smith. Because Lovie Smith is the right guy to handle Jameis Winston, to help him along the way, to help him down the road. In other words, to help him understand that he's going to be a pro football player. I think if you're Lovie, you bring him in and tell him this. Hey, look, we draft you here. First of all, we're not building a brand. You're coming to work. Second thing, you're only going to talk to the media once a week. Just once a week. We're going to limit that. You're going to be in this building. If you want to be the face of the franchise, it starts coming to work. It doesn't start you building your brand first. It's about working.
Right.
Capturing the locker room. He's going to do that.
Yep.
This guy can lead now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good leader, so he's got a lot of qualities. I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to throw, John says he throws interceptions. They all do. Rookies come in the league, they throw 20 interceptions. That's what they do.
I remember you saying
that's their
they
DNA.
will always give the ball away.
They're going to get the ball away. They don't mean to. They just throw it to the other guy.
How do you feel personally about him in terms of now that you've got to know him? Do you believe he is ready to handle all of this off the field?
I do. I think going forward, you can better believe that they've done their due diligence. Every club,
all right.
and they're looking in all the corners, trying to figure out has this guy been involved in anything else since these last incidents have taken place, right? And so far, there's nothing. Right? There's nothing.
Not that we know of.
Not that we know of. Between now and the draft, we're going to find out. But I say this, I do think he's going to be the first player picked.
I think Jameis Winston is a slam dunk, no-brainer first overall pick. I told Kerry early in the show, if I'm Tampa, I'm walking up to the commissioner right now with the card. Wherever he is, I'll go to New York and give him the card. Yeah. It's over to me. And I appreciate you using my pet phrase on this show, clutch gene. I think I coined it once upon a time.
Let's make some t-shirts.
Okay.
But he does have the clutch gene. And you're either born with it or you're not born with it. And he's got it. And I get what Ron Jaworski's point is here. He threw way too many interceptions his second year in college, following his Heisman year. Now, the upside to that was he dug some very deep holes, and then he dug them right back out of it. And what he did in fourth quarters this past year, after throwing all those picks, was extraordinary because game after game, I would just sit there in awe. He pulled him out again.
Yes.
Out of the fire, out of the fire. Well, that's what I'm going to take to the bank, not the interceptions. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, understand this. He had Benjamin his first year.
He did.
He's pretty good. That Benjamin fellow that's in Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay, he's pretty good. But understand this. You make the point about being clutch. I know this as being a former athlete and coaching athletes. If there's one thing about the light when it comes on, certain athletes go run for the shade. He embraces it. He wants it to be on him. And this is what you like, especially at that position, the quarterback position, because there's so much asked of this guy and how we want him to play and the situations he's going to be in. This is a football team that's been 30th and 32nd in offense. So they're at the bottom. He has two big-time receivers, 1,000-yard receivers in Jackson and Evans. They need a running game. They need to protect him a little bit at the line of scrimmage with the offensive line. It was hurting. A lot of discomfort there last year. They're trying to build a defense. This guy can handle all that. He can understand it. It's going to be a lot on him because they might be playing from behind. And he understands that. That's his mindset.
Now, quick thought on Mariota. I'm not saying when the lights are brightest he's going to run for the shade, but he does not have, to me, this is my view, the supreme self-confidence you need to be the #1 overall pick with that burden on your shoulder pads as a rookie. And to me, Mariota, and I've heard this from several people I'm close with, he can be so nice and so deferential to a fault that he's probably not the dynamic leader you need, as is Jameis, with the #1 overall pick, which is why I wouldn't take him there or 2. Down the line, I'd be better off with Mariota, but it's going to take him some time. Jameis is ready to play in this league.
Is there such a thing, too nice?
Well, we said that about Eli Manning. Is he too nice? He's not verbal. I mean, some guys aren't verbal. I mean, Joe Montana wasn't a verbal guy, but his presence brought it. You know, he like Tom Brady, you can see it on the sideline. Joe Montana's just kind of sitting there. You know, Joe Cool. He's just kind of. So there's different ways. You have to convince the guys in the huddle they can count on you. And when they need a play, you're going to make the play. You have to command the huddle. And there's got to be a little bit of something in you now. And all those guys had it. I think Mariota will have it. He doesn't show it like Winston, but he has it. This guy's won a lot of games as well now. Now he's got to learn how to play in an offense that suits, the pro offense. Now, if you're Chip Kelly now, this is your guy. I mean, this is your Andrew Luck.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I am.
Sometimes I think Chip's
laughing at all of us.
If he could get him, he would go get him. This is Andrew Luck, this guy.
Your first year, you were shooting free throws. And I came up to you, and what did I say?
You said I want you to shoot underhand.
And your response was?
Coach, I'm a hip-hop kid. I can't shoot underhand. People are going to laugh at me. Just let me.
And you say it's a granny shot.
Yes, it's a granny shot.
We got to improve your free throws here.
We most definitely need to do that. We all know Shaquille O'Neal as an NBA great with a personality that rivals his size, but that's not the kid former LSU coach Dale Brown met on an Army base in Germany years ago. In the SEC story documentary, Shaq and Dale, director Hannah Storm follows a relationship that has stood the test of time and made Shaq the legend he is today. And speaking of legends, you're a personal favorite of mine, as you well know. It's such a pleasure to have my big sis here. Hannah.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I had to, spend 2 years directing a movie to get an invitation. Thanks. It finally happened. Yay!
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Hannah, tell us obviously about the film. I know it's a labor of love for you, and you directed it. So walk us through the story.
It's amazing. I always wonder with great people, with legendary personalities, especially somebody larger than life like Shaq, who's a pitch man and an actor and a broadcaster and this huge personality with 10 million Twitter followers. Where did that confidence come from? Where did it start? And he was very insecure, living on an Army base in West Germany at age 13. His coach, he hadn't grown into his body at all. He was uncoordinated. He couldn't dunk. He couldn't do anything. And his coach was like, you're not going to play basketball. Like, you've got to give it up. Might as well just go into the Army, right? Like your dad. And Dale Brown was speaking at the base, and he heard about it. And when his dad, Sergeant Philip Harrison, used to punish him, he'd make him read the dictionary. So Shaq knew all these big words. He's like, I got to get a big word for the coach because I got to impress the coach. So he looked up this particular word, and he went up to Dale Brown. He stuttered at the time. He was like, Sir, I need help building up strength in my lower extremities. And the coach was like, lower extremities? He's like, all right, soldier, I'll help you out. And he said, no. I'm not a soldier. I'm 13. And the coach was like, all right, I gotta hide this kid. But he went back. He wrote him letters, and later on, of course, he came back to U.S. and got good, and eventually chose to go to LSU. But even then, he didn't feel he was good enough to start with Stanley Roberts and Chris Jackson. And time again, we go through incidents in the film where the coach backed up Shaq, whether it was physically in a fight with Carlos Groves, or whether it was when David Duke was running for governor and tried to twist Shaq's words around for his own campaign. At every juncture, this coach backed up not just Shaq, the rest of his players, but really put that air in his confidence, that made him feel that he could eventually go on to the next level.
It's interesting that you bring that up because obviously knowing Shaq and Coach for years, especially Shaq, one of the things that I always marveled at was the closeness that they had, but it didn't seem to stem from their relationship at LSU. And so you're breaking it down and explaining what happened. I often wondered, did Dale Brown feel the need to defend Shaq because he felt like Shaq needed to be defended? Or was it just a byproduct of he just fell in love with the kid from the time that he saw him when he was younger?
It maybe even goes back before that, Stephen A., because a lot of people don't realize that the two men had similar backgrounds. They were both abandoned by their birth fathers and never knew their birth fathers. And Dale Brown grew up in abject poverty. His mother was on welfare, and he recounts in the film just some horrible incidents where people were cruel to his mother. And it gave him this not only empathy for players, for all of his players, not just Shaq, but also this really strong sense of what was right and what was wrong. And we saw him go to battle with refs in the SEC, felt that Shaq wasn't getting the calls, he was getting beat up. I've seen him go to battle again and again against the NCAA. He is a huge supporter of Native Americans to this day and the way they're treated, of people who are incarcerated and the way they're treated. So this is a guy who has just this fierce, abiding desire to do what's right and to stand by the underdog. And Shaq, in his mind, was one of those underdogs in the sense that he didn't know what his potential was, and he was, he was a stutterer when he got there. He had to go to classes. He listened to him do speeches in his office for class. And so it was this enduring relationship, and he stood up to Philip Harrison, Shaq's beloved stepfather, who was very tough, and Dale was the one person who said, you know what, I got this. Because Philip was like, yeah, you're bringing in Walton and all these people to work with my kid. He doesn't need that. And he was like, Sergeant, where on your uniform does it say coach? All right. We got a little less than 5 minutes and really stood up. I know I'm like rambling.
No, that's okay. I want to make sure
it's a really cool subject. Yeah.
So I was not aware Shaq, as a younger man, had a stuttering problem that he had to defeat in college?
Yes, he did.
Wow.
He did.
How did he defeat it?
Well, Coach put him into classes, and he took classes to that effect. And he used to actually go into Coach's office and practice his speeches with Coach. Coach would sit in class, and it was all about education with Philip Harrison. And one of the big benchmarks when he knew that he wasn't ready to go to the NBA after a sophomore season was not just because Dr. J visited him, which Dale Brown brought him in. He said, talk to this kid about what life is like in the pros. And Dr. J was like, man, you're not ready, right? You got mortgage payments, you got everything else. And he went home, and his mom said, here's a checkbook. Why don't you balance it? Couldn't do it. Didn't go pro, wasn't ready, right? So in everybody's mind, right, this kid needed more seasoning. So that was, again, another way of sort of taking care of him so that when he went to the NBA, he was ready.
Well, so Shaq watches the film, What's his
He's
take?
probably watching the show right now.
He probably is, because you guys they're really good friends.
Yeah, but he loves the movie. I'm so happy, and so does his mom, and so does Dale.
What was his take on it? Is Dale a father figure to him?
Well, I mean, Sergeant Philip Harrison was his father figure, and Dale did not replace that. But I would say that Dale amplified that. And sometimes when you're a young person, you need that seminal figure in your life who's not your parents, right? Because, you know, our parents are our parents. And then you had this other man who has maintained this true, abiding love for him for decades, and who gave him confidence, who stood by him. And Dale only wanted to do this film for Shaq, so that people could see what a wonderful person Shaq was, and Shaq had the same reason for doing the film. And you sense in this one, you're going to like get teary-eyed at the end of this film, because nothing is staged. You know, I set the two of them out there and had them talk, and the end of the film is just this beautiful shot with their like arms around each other and telling each other that, and they love each other.
Shaq has always spoken incredibly highly of Dale Brown. He loves this man dearly. One other question before we go, because it's the one thing I had with Shaq and Dale Brown together. The one knock I had against them.
Oh boy.
Boy, when Shaq and Stanley Roberts and Chris Jackson, who was a bad boy. I mean, it was when, and they got knocked off by Kenny Anderson, Lethal Weapon 3, Dennis Scott Brown.
They did, yes, they did.
I mean, did they talk about that at all?
Yes, I did. Are you kidding me?
That's what I got to ask.
This isn't like hearts and flowers and rainbows, my friend. I'm a journalist.
I understand.
Okay? You know, I sit at this table. Hey, they didn't win the title. Shaq said in the film, he's like, we all wanted ours. We all wanted ours. And when you think about chemistry, and I know guys like, you know, Rick Pitino and Kentucky, they make it all look easy. Everybody's there for 1 year. We're winning, winning, winning. But back then, when you think about Chris Jackson, who had to shoot.
Yes.
Part of that was the Tourette's, but he had to shoot. You had two big men, Shaq and Stanley. You had 1 year to get it all going, and there is a lot to be said for chemistry, the way the team was constructed. None of that. Did they make any excuses? No. You know what? You know what Dale says? I could have coached better. I could have recruited better. It's the one regret that they have, and yes, it is addressed in the film, my friend. So fear not.
That's right.
And in the end, Shaq's like, you know what? I know we had, you know, this thing where, you know, we all had to get ours, but he goes, really? I don't know.
Tim McGraw.
He said, I don't know.
How'd you get Tim McGraw to narrate?
He was my first choice. I wanted a Louisiana native. I wanted a sports fan. And I literally called him up and said, you know, he's never done a sports documentary. And so I would say that directing Tim McGraw and telling him, you know,
that's huge.
was pretty cool.
That's why you're a hen.
Well, I don't know.
Miss Storm.
I've done, you know, a few voiceovers in my life. It was fun.
Good.
I love you guys. Thank you.
You are more than welcome. You can come back anytime.
I really want to. Let's talk. When I come back, I want to talk Warriors sometime, because I embedded with those guys for like a couple of weeks for a special. So we should talk, you know, in the playoffs.
They would
chat about that.
They would need to win. They better get out of the first round. I know that much.
That's what we can talk about them. All right, Shaq and Dale premiered on the SEC Network last night, and it will make its ESPN debut on Thursday, April 16th at 8 p.m. Shaq and Dale, directed by Hannah Storm. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Love ya.
In an interview with USA Today Sports, Shaq was asked if he thought today's trash talk has changed since the golden era of the 80s and 90s. Trash talking has slipped 60%. This is what he had to say. Trash talking has slipped 60%. I know a lot of the players are worried about getting fined, but for me growing up, you had to trash talk. I didn't play against kids. I played against guys on the Army base. But they say a lot of legends were great trash talkers. I was talking to Isaiah Thomas once, and he said Larry Bird was an unbelievable trash talker. Like Larry Bird used to say stuff like, I'm going to take one dribble, pump fake. Even if you don't go for it, I'm going to shoot it the second time, and it's going to be all net. And he'd do it. All right? Trash talking has slipped 60%, so says Shaq. Stephen A, you want to go?
Well, I don't know how he came up with those numbers, and I know Shaq well enough to know there's no way in hell he did his own research, so I certainly don't believe that to be the case. But I will tell you that it definitely has dissipated significantly. I don't think there's any question about that, and I think it's primarily because the league has overreacted. The league, due in large part, in fairness to the league, because of the brawl at the Palace in Auburn Hills, they have been incredibly conscientious about their image, about how things come across, what could potentially lead to things transpiring. And they obviously concluded that trash talking has something to do with it. Now, obviously, the fans at the brawl, that's a different scenario. But there was some talking and some trash talking and some things that went on between the Pistons and the Indiana Pacers that particular night before the brawl ensued. And I'm telling you right now that the league is cognizant of doing everything they can to prevent any acts of violence taking place, and anything that could exacerbate a situation on the basketball court that ultimately can turn something physical is something they guard against incredibly so. And so that has a lot to do with it. But, you know, I like the fact that Isaiah brought up Larry Bird because, listen, there was no classier individual in professional sports at the time than Dr. J. And Dr. J threw a couple of blows in the face of Larry Bird. And I'm telling you why that happened. It happened because Bird said, I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to shoot a three from here. And oh, by the way, I'm going to do this here. And I'm going to put this on you right here. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I love me some Dr. J. Julius Erving, but Bird was serving them up. You understand? And that had a lot to do with why Dr. J was so frustrated where he ultimately resorted to.
Yeah. I go back with this league a lot farther than you do.
Yes, you do.
I've written a lot about this. Larry Bird was the greatest trash talker of all time, and I don't think it was close, though Michael Jordan might have been in the ballpark with Larry Bird. But remember, it wasn't overt trash talk, it was covert. Mark Aguirre used to tell me that game after game, Larry Bird would just lean in his ear and all but whisper what he was about to do to Mark and talk him into psychological oblivion. So it wasn't demonstrative. It wasn't open. It wasn't yelled trash talk. It was more whispered in your ear trash talk. So my point, you're talking more about post-Palace brawl fighting. You know, they wanted to eliminate fighting. But why is there less, if in fact Shaq's survey is correct, 50%? Look, there are two huge influences on today's NBA. One is LeBron James. I don't think he talks any trash. Now, for a while, he was getting a lot of trash talked at him, but I don't think he instigates or initiates trash talk. I don't see that or hear that from anybody else. And my Spurs they should have won back-to-back championships, but they just won. They talk zero trash, and they get zero talked at them. I watch every game. I never see anybody get in any kind of a jawing match with the Spurs. They just don't do it. And don't tell me that doesn't trickle down and influence the way the game is played by other teams in the NBA. It's just it's a new day. New age.
It may have something to do with it. And I think you don't see a lot going in the Spurs direction because there's a price that you pay. And Popovich is special with that. I remember, if you remember a time when DeMarcus Cousins, who we're both fans of in terms of his game, he may be the best big man in the game. Nobody's trying to disrespect him. But DeMarcus Cousins was having a good few moments against Tim Duncan. What did Tim Duncan do? He just sat up there and stared at Greg Popovich, like looked at him. And the next thing you know, Greg Popovich, according to people who were at the game, they told me this, Greg Popovich called Tim Duncan's number 13 straight times, okay? And 11 of those times resulted in baskets. You understand? And Sean Elliott sat up there and said, you don't tug on Superman's cape or something along those lines. And DeMarcus Cousins didn't find that too nice. You understand? But it was because he had screamed like he can't guard me. You see, so Popovich also assists because he'll let you know, he'll come at you. Players are cognizant of that and they say, we might not want to do that.
Before the Red Sox home opener yesterday, four-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady was present for the pregame festivities and threw out the first pitch. The Big Papi. Brady also took batting practice with Pedro Martinez during his visit to Fenway. What is your reaction?
Well, I must admit, I was surprisingly disappointed because we're talking about Super Bowl MVP, a great passer, a future Hall of Famer, an elite quarterback. I did expect a better pitch.
Okay.
I could joke about how that particular ball was not deflated, but I won't.
Uh-oh.
You know, I'll leave that alone.
Okay.
He is the great Tom
bounced.
Brady. It was listen. It's all in fun, man. I'm just having fun. Tom Brady's great, man, and you know, it was good to see him out there just relaxed and cool, chilling like he can. He deserved it.
All I care about is that Tom Brady can throw a football better than any human being alive, including that University of Wisconsin bandwagon jumper up in Green Bay. What's his name?
Nobody can throw a football better.
Nobody can throw it better than Tom Brady.
Than Aaron Rodgers.
And then what was that kind of pitch? He got a little cute with it. He threw the kind of pitch, a curveball in the dirt. It was a curveball.
No,
it broke. No, it was a curveball in the dirt.
Break.
It would have struck out A-Rod swinging. Would it not have struck out A-Rod?
I don't know that yet. A-Rod right now is hitting about the
It would have struck out any New York Yankee standing in that batter's box, and that's what he was trying to demonstrate is a strikeout pitch in the dirt.
Is that what he was demonstrating?
Strike out those Yankees.
Okay.
They're up there flailing.
Okay. Who would have threw it better, Aaron or Tom?
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, come on.
Oh, please, come on now. Aaron Rodgers is the best pure passer in the game.
Yeah.
We all know this.
Yeah, I like how he cheers.
You won't let that go. You will not let that go.
You know, like basketball.
So disrespectful.
Tomorrow on the show, we have Terrell Owens.
Terrell Owens
will be here. I'm calling him
interesting.
T.O. because he don't like Terrell.
Just say Terrell.
What's he doing now? I'm just curious.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
He looks good.
He's still one of the great wide receivers in the history of the game.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.